Hi everybody, my name is Rich and I'm here to demonstrate for you SoccerStats, an Android application to help parents track the performance of their kids in youth soccer. Before we go into an in-depth dive of the application, let me give you a quick overview of the main features of the application, starting with the roster. The roster is where you can manage the players that you're interested in tracking information about. We start here with 3 players, but typically you wouldn't have any when you first enter the application. Going next to stats, the statistics page is where you will find the player statistics applicable to the last game that was played. Next we'll go to help. Help is where you can find a comprehensive set of help for the application. The Welcome tab that we're on now gives you a high-level overview of how to use the game. The Game tab and Stats tab provide you in-depth help about the gameplay itself and how to record events during the game like goals and shots on goal, and the stats page provides some information about the how to interpret the statistics on the stats page, and finally the About tab gives you some information about the application and how to reach the developer. And finally, if you click on the Start Game button, you can see that will bring up the gameplay page, and this is where you control all the events that happen during a game. So let's go back to our main screen here, and let's enter the application as a user would, as a first-time user would. So in doing that, the first thing a user would have to do is manage their roster. That is to define the players that they're interested in tracking. Now we've started here with 3 players. I did this just to save some time in the video. But let's add a couple more players to show how that's done. You do this by clicking on your phone's menu button, and that'll bring up a menu with one item on it, Add Player. We'll select this menu item, and that will bring up the Add Player dialog. So let's add a couple players this way. First we'll add a player called Amanda, and then we'll click on the Add Player button here, which will add this player and bring up another Add Player dialog so we can quickly enter multiple players. And let's finish this up by entering Kelsey, and we'll click on OK. We're done entering players. Now to demonstrate just a couple things you can do to manage your player roster. First of all, let's say that Amanda, we realize that we have a couple of Amandas on our team and we want to be clear about which one we're tracking. So we touch Amanda's entry in the roster, and that'll bring up the Edit Player dialog. And let's just add a qualification to Amanda's name, the first initial of her last name, and we'll click OK. And now we can see that Amanda is indeed Amanda S, and that's the one we're interested in. Let's also say for whatever reason we're not interested in tracking Kelsey's information anymore. The way we would remove Kelsey from our roster is, again, like with editing Amanda, we just touch on Kelsey's entry, and you'll notice the center button in the Edit Player dialog that comes up prompts us to delete players. So if we click on this button, we'll see that Kelsey is indeed removed from the roster, and she's no longer one of the players that we're tracking. So now with our roster set up, we can go into the game. So without any delay, let's start our first game by pressing the Start Game button, and that will bring us into the main playing screen here. A couple things to note is the game is currently not started, and that there's a substitution area that contains a list of all the players that we're tracking and currently shows them as all off the field. So the first thing we'll want to do is pick a couple players to be on the field. Let's say Tien is going to be our striker, and let's say Shelley is going to be our keeper. So we start the game with Shelley and Tien on the field and Aaron and Amanda off the field. The referee blows the whistle, and we start the game by touching the Start button, which immediately turns into our game clock, which counts up the amount of time that's elapsed during the half. We can also see that in our substitutions area down below that the time on and off field clocks for the players are also incrementing along with the game clock. Next, let's talk about shots on goal. Let's press the Shots on Goal button to indicate that a shot on goal was just taken. The first thing that we're prompted with is a prompt that asks us which team got the shot on goal. Let's say the opposing team got it, and that expands the dialog box a little bit more to ask us who saved the goal. And let's say that Shelley is our keeper, I believe. So let's say Shelley gets credited with saving the shot on goal, and that we click OK. And now we can see that there's been one shot on goal by the opposing team. Let's take another shot on goal, this time by us. So we'll say our team got it. And let's say the shot on goal was taken by the anonymous player. Now, what this highlights is that events can happen during the game that are taken by players that we're not tracking. So in this case, we're showing a shot on goal that was taken by one of our players, but by one of our players that we're not interested in tracking the detailed statistics for. However, we still want to record the shot on goal as occurring. So to do this, we attributed that to the anonymous player and click OK. And now our shots on goal are tied up at 1-1. At this point, let's say the referee blows the whistle. Maybe there's an injury on the field. We touch the game clock to pause it, and that's indicated now that it's paused by turning red. And we can also see that the substitutions area, that those clocks have also stopped. Now let's go ahead and say that the referee blows the whistle to resume the game. We touch the game clock again, and it's now started. And we can also see, if we look down in the substitutions area, that the substitution the player on and off field clocks are also incrementing upwards with the game clock. Now let's the next thing we want to show here is an in-game substitution. So let's say that TN is tired and she needs to move off the field. We touch her on-field button to toggle it to off-field, and she goes to the bottom of the list. And let's say that we bring Amanda on the field, and she then goes up to show on-field at this point. And the movement of the players in the substitutions list highlights that the list is sorted, and the first category that we're sorting players by is whether they're on the field or off the field. So that's why you see Shelley and Amanda as the first two entries in the substitutions list, because they're on the field, followed by Aaron and TN being off the field. The second level of sorting that's done in the substitutions list is by how long the player has been either on or off the field. So we can see Shelley is in the first position because she's been on the field longer than Amanda at almost 3 minutes versus Amanda's 40 seconds. And Aaron likewise has been off the field for 3 minutes or so to TN's minute or so. So now that we've talked a little bit about substitutions, let's talk about how the half will end. To end the half, you pause the clock as before. You touch the clock button, and it will turn red, and it will stop counting up. And to switch halves, we go to the left and touch the half button, currently reading first. When we touch it, it'll change to read second. And several things happen. The score and shots on goal buttons are disabled. The game clock has changed to start, and our substitutions list has changed with all the players being off the field and having their on-field or off-field clock times zeroed out. So again, as before, let's put some players on the field, and let's say we have Aaron is on the field now with TN as our striker, and Aaron is our keeper, and let's start the half. And again, our game clock starts up in the second half. Let's click on score now and show how goals are recorded. Let's show first, because it's easier, what happens when the opposing team scores. So to the which team question, we'll answer them. And that'll bring up the goal allowed by prompt, which I believe Aaron is now our keeper. So we will say the goal was allowed by Aaron, which will increment her goals against statistics for this game. And we can see the score goes from 0-0 to 0-1. Let's click on score again, and this time let's say that our team got a goal, which is always more fun. And let's say this time it was scored by Tien, and again let's say that she was assisted by a player that we're not tracking, so we'll leave the assisted by at anonymous and click on OK. And now we see the score is evened up at 1-1. And to show a couple other features of the gameplay screen, let's click on the score again, and let's say we've now got the hang of the application, so we're quickly going to record this goal as being a goal against Aaron. We record it. The score goes up from 1 to 1 to 1 to 2, and then the referee blows a whistle, calls a offsides, and we need to call this score back. So how do we do that? Well, you can simply press your phone's menu button, and that'll bring up the play game menu down at the bottom of the screen, and we can undo that last score by touching the undo last event button in the menu. We do that, and the score goes back to 1 to 1, and Aaron's goal against statistics are also decremented by 1. To show a couple other items that you saw in the menu, let's press the phone's menu button again, and we see that we can add a player as well. Let's say that a player comes on the field that wasn't in our roster, and we decide we're interested in tracking them. If we touch that menu item, we get the Add Player dialog again, like we did with the roster, and we can enter in a player. And let's go ahead and add Pat. Now we can see Pat is here. Let's say she goes on the field, so now she moves up into the on-field group in the substitution area. And finally, let's give Pat a goal, or a shot on goal, just to show that that she is contributing to the welfare of her team here. So now we've demonstrated shots on goal, goals, moving from first half to second half, and substitutions. Now let's end the game. To do that, we'll pause the clock by touching it again. The clock will turn red to indicate that it's stopped. To go into the end of game, we'll touch the half button. This will change from second half to ended, and it will also be red to indicate that we're done with the game. And let's go back to the main screen and review our post-game statistics. And we do that by clicking our Stats button on the main screen, and that will bring up our player statistics screen. The information on this screen includes the jersey number and name of the player, along with how much time they spent on the field in the last game, along with all their statistics for the last game, including goal, shots on goal, assists, saves, and goals against. So to review this briefly, Pat played for 30 seconds and got 1 shot on goal. That was right at the very end of the game. Aaron was on the field for 2 minutes and 50 seconds and had 1 goal against. Recall that she did have another goal scored against her, but it was called back by the referee, so her goal against statistics were updated to reflect that goal being called back. Shelley was on the field for 3 minutes and 19 seconds and had 1 save. Tien, 4 minutes and 57 seconds and had 1 goal. And Amanda was on the field for a little bit over a minute and didn't have any events that were attributable to her during the game. So that wraps up the quick review of the player statistics. Let's go back to the main screen, and let's wrap up our demonstration with going back to help. Let's go back to the help about. Highlight a few more interesting things on here. You can see the application's version number is available to you. If you want to report any information about the application, be sure to include that. Down below we have several links here. The first link is to the main website for the SoccerStats application. Here you can find information about the application and a discussion forum. The next link is a link to some detailed help, which you can also find on the website. And finally, you can contact the developer directly if you wish at soccersoftco@gmail.com. That wraps up this demo. I appreciate your time, and I hope you found it interesting. Thank you.